Just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, you are live.
All right. The meeting of the Board of the Port Wardens on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024 will be called at 7:02. We're going to go ahead and do roll call. Tonight, we have all Port Wardens, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Lerner, Mr. McCopp, and Mr. Siegel. So thank you for being here. And then we also from the city have our attorney, Mrs. Berger, and Mr. Adams, who handles the planning zoning stuff, as well as Kimberly doing the minutes and Mark helping us with the video elements. Let's go ahead and next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make that motion. I'll second it.
All right, so Mr. Anderson made a motion to approve. Mr. Siegel approved it or seconded it. All those in favor, please state aye or yay.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. So the motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, administrative. Next item on the agenda is the approval. I'm sorry, I've got something mixed up. We need to approve the minutes from the prior meeting. So that would be the April 23rd meeting. And I know all of you have had these since the minutes came out. So if I can get a motion, that would be in a second, that would be great.
I'll make that motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
Mr. Anderson, thank you. Second by Mr. Siegel. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the April 23rd meeting, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, let's move down to next item agenda is finding of facts. We only have one for the evening. It's the one we heard at the last meeting from April 23rd. So the first and only one for findings of fact is Port 2024-00004, Timothy Newbury at 7 Loudon Lane, and it's to move one mooring pile and install a boat lift, install a 2 PWC lift as well. Is there a motion to approve the written findings of fact? And is there a second?
Approve first motion.
Okay, Mr. Siegel, thank you. Can I get a
Second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, all those in favor to approve the written findings of fact for Port 2024-00004, Timothy Newbury, 7 Loudon Lane, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. The motion passes. All right, let's move to old business. Because we had some people missing, but let me start it off and then we'll talk about how we'll bring people in. All right, next item agenda is Port 2024-0005. That's the Horn Point Harbor Marina at 105 Eastern Avenue. It's to remove the existing pier and relocate one existing finger pier, construct a 90 linear foot, 3 foot wide finger pier at slips 25 and 26 with a wave break element, and remove 2 dolphin piles and install 2 mooring piles. Mark, can you please bring in all parties that are related to this particular application?
They're coming in now.
Okay. All right, now all parties that are part of the application or consultants, we do need to have your video turned on, unlike a public comment, because we're going to swear you in if you're going to be speaking this evening. Okay. So let me wait to see if we have everyone related to the matter that is going to speak. We're going to hear this one again so that the people who physically attended, that we had a slight error in the posting. So people physically attended last time. That's why we're rehearing this again, but it should go relatively, we'll just review it again. Okay. So is everyone in who is speaking about the Horn Point Marina Harbor, the 2024-0005? All right. Anyone planning to testify, please raise your right hand. Okay. You do solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give the Port Wardens is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, thank you very much. As a preliminary matter, the board will accept into record the application packet and the staff report from planning and zoning and any public comments. All right, Mr. Adams, are there any existing public comments? I believe we received anything written, but I believe there might be some people here to speak.
Yeah, we did not receive written testimony ahead of the meeting, but we
Okay.
do have a number of members of the public that would like to testify.
Okay. All right. Do we have a list of those, or are those here right now? Or
We have both of them in as attendees. Would you like me to give them the ability to talk?
Please, yes.
Okie doke.
Let me ask Kim a quick question. Do we hear the public contents at this point, or do we wait till we get done with the applicant and their consultants?
Maybe,
Are you asking me that or
maybe
Kim?
Carrie should answer that.
I'm sorry, Carrie. I apologize. I'm asking Carrie. I apologize.
It's okay. I would have the applicant and consultant do any additional testimony or any additional questions that you guys may have, and then go to the public testimony after the applicant and consultant. And then
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll move them back to attendees.
Thank you very much. I apologize. This is actually one of the first ones I've had with public comments physically attending. All right. So can we go ahead? I guess who is Mike or Joseph? Who is the consultant on this project or applicant?
I'll go ahead. My name is Joseph. I'm the consultant, the agent for the permitting process for Horn Point Marina. This project is to remove 220 square feet of existing pier. We're also removing 2 existing dolphin piles. And those existing dolphin piles are at the existing harbor line of the marina. And then we're going to reconstruct 90 linear feet of a 3-foot wide finger pier at the exterior of the existing slips there at the end of the pier. And those are also going to serve as a wave break and offer the wave protection for those exterior slips. And then we're also relocating one of the existing finger piers, just kind of reconfiguring the outer slips there between 24, 25, and 26.
Okay. All right. Are the I guess, we had gone over this last week. The lines are very tight with the harbor line, but that's just simply the way it's drawn. Obviously, it can't protrude beyond the harbor line. You're sort of staying in the same general location or boundaries that you were in prior. They're really the lateral line is not shown on the drawing on I guess proposed pier 5 of 6. It is shown pretty clearly on 3 of 6, and it looks like the lateral line is you're well off the setback. But where is the setback drawn on this lateral line?
I think if you go to the next page, 4 of 6, that will show the lateral lines, both north and south lateral lines, and then also the harbor line on.
Right. I'm not seeing a 5 foot. I assume it is 5 feet, but it's not clearly. I just want to make sure towards the bottom of 4 of 6. Okay,
Sure.
towards your new wave attenuation wall. what is that measurement? See where it says 26 feet? It could be, or what?
Finger pier area.
I'm sorry, what?
That's what you're talking about, the 26 feet in the bottom corner by the finger pier area, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah. I just want to make sure without the 5-foot setback line drawn, I'm assuming it's definitely 5 feet based on the length of and I don't, again, I certainly have the
Sure.
scale. I don't have it in printed format. It's all digital.
Sure. From the lateral line, the furthest extent of the proposed finger pier would be 14 feet setback from the southern lateral line.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Otherwise I don't, let's go ahead and I guess pass this to some other port wardens. Port wardens, what questions do you guys have?
I'm comfortable.
Okay, great. Scott?
I have no questions. I think it
Okay.
looks good.
Yeah, Jared?
I have no questions.
All right, Jonathan?
No questions.
Okay. All right. I guess let's go ahead and bring in public comments at this point, or public, anyone from the public who wishes to speak about this application.
Jeff Leach has the ability to speak now. I don't know what happened to Don Fry.
Okay.
We're having connection issues.
Okay, we did hear you, Mr. Leach. What kind of connection issues are you having?
Yeah, that's actually.
Okay, Rob,
Okay,
this is
they're both
Ed
in now.
Hartman. Ed Hartman. And I have Don Fry and Jeff Leach with me.
Can you turn one of the two off? Because we're getting echoes, Mr. Hartman.
Okay. Turn your guys off. How about now? Is that better?
Yes, that's great.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay. So given that we're still in Zoom and we're still.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
I'm old.
Wait 1 second, please. We're getting echoes. Can we have one of you mute your speaker, Don Fry or Jeff Leach? One of you move. It sounds like you're obviously, you might be in the same room, but one of you needs to mute. Or Mark, can you mute one of them?
Yeah, we're shutting them all down.
Okay, great. All right.
Good.
That works out very well. Thank you. I can hear you now.
Thank you.
All right.
Hero. All right. So again, my name is Ed Hartman. I represent Don Fry and Jeff Leach, who are here with me, and I have John Dowling as well. So we traditionally, the way this has always worked is that we actually come up and sit at the table and present a case in opposition to that presented by the applicant. Obviously, things are a little different since we're still on Zoom. So we'll do our best from this end to attempt to present that cogently, although it's a little bit difficult. So Mr. Fry and Mr. Leach, and they will testify individually in a moment, are contiguous and nearby property owners. If you're looking from an aerial of the drawings, Mr. Leach is directly contiguous to the left, or sort of the south, I guess. And then Mr. Fry is right next to him. Mr. Leach's pier is right next to the Horn Point Harbor Marina. And Mr. Fry's developable waterway area is right next to Mr. Leach's. My clients oppose the application on the following grounds. It negatively impacts an already dangerous navigation pattern because the way that the marina is designed, the lack of an opening between the navigable waterway channel and the actual body of the marina requires all the boats to go around and essentially traverse both the developable waterway areas of Mr. Leach and Mr. Fry. This particular proposed construction will only make it worse in that they will have to go farther around the wave break and traverse directly through my client's developable waterway areas, impinging upon their riparian rights and creating more navigational hazards. I will cite briefly a couple of applicable code sections, which is that, and one is noticeable from the applicant's drawing, which is that no portion of the marina shall be located less than 5 feet away from a lateral line. That is City Code Section 15.18.100. The drawing depicts that the entire northern side is less than 5 feet from the lateral line. Now, that makes it a non-conforming use. That doesn't mean it has to be torn down, but that calls into play the very next section of the code that says a non-conforming use, this is section 15.18.110, may not be added to or enlarged without actually going back and making it comply. And I don't think that the Horn Point Harbor wants to tear out the whole rest of the marina to and replace it in accordance with the current law. And I wouldn't expect that. But having said that, the application cannot comply with the law because it will continue to be conforming use even though it's added to enlarged. I also just want to know for the record that these drawings are usually stamped by a surveyor or an engineer, and there's a noticeable absence of that from these. There's no certification or stamp by a PE or a professional surveyor. So we don't really know about the dimensions and the scale or any of the other things that I have always seen over my 40 years of doing this. So it's a little unusual, and it just raises a question as to those drawings. Additionally, in a situation like this, the port wardens are required under the code to consider the effect of the proposed structure on other riparian property owners. That's under section 15.16.30. And that the board does not have the ability to deprive a riparian right owner of any rights or privileges associated with those riparian rights. That's under 15.2.010. So the code's very careful to protect the adjoining property rights of the properties next door. And lastly, under the code section, before we get these gentlemen testify, the port wardens must make certain that the proposed structure does not render navigation too close and confined. And it is our position, as testimony will show in a moment, that this proposal does in fact violate all of those code sections and therefore must be approved. I will note, must be rejected. I will note that years ago, probably about 40 years ago, the Annapolis City Code was amended to only allow for the port wardens to approve or disapprove. The general concept was that the port wardens could not amend or modify the plans because generally people didn't want port wardens designing their marinas for them, but those are your only options, are to approve or disapprove. And obviously those are without prejudice. The applicant would still be allowed to come up with a better proposal that would not violate these sections. So at this point in time, I'm going to put on Mr. Fry and ask him a few questions, and I promise we'll be quick. There's not a whole lot to this. And I apologize again for the awkwardness of the technology here. So please state your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Don Fry. I live at 129 Bay Shore Avenue.
And where is that in relation to Horn Point Harbor?
And that's 2 doors down. Jeff Leach, our neighbor, is in between us and Horn Point Marina.
Okay. And do you oppose the Horn Point Harbor proposal?
Yes, I do.
And why do you do that?
Well, it is infringing on our riparian rights, that this project will. And
give a little more, you would provide a little more detail to the board about how it more practically affects you and your developable waterway area, the water in front of your home.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our water is not, it's only about 25 or 30 feet or so from the marina. And the boats are coming out of the marina right now. They come out and they basically must traverse across our developable waterway area. And if we ever want to build a dock there, it would be dangerous, really. The proposed structure would impact my ability to safely access the navigable channel to the harbor line.
Okay. Do you also believe this proposal will affect your property values?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Our waterfront, it will be much less desirable, in my opinion.
Good. Have you expressed your concerns to the proprietors of Horn Point Harbor?
Yeah.
And
in fact, we had a meeting with Seth 2 weeks ago today in his office. Both Jeff Leach and I went over and chatted with him, and we talked about our concerns. We mentioned we'd seen the drawings. We looked at the drawings. We didn't see any reference to surveying or anything else that led us to believe that the accuracy of the drawings, or that they were prepared by a professional. We also talked about the encroachment on our rights, and we asked about options or alternatives or whatever, and we really didn't get any response back on that. Also, we also told him that time was of the essence because this meeting was coming up in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from then, which isn't a lot of time to do a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fry. I'm going to quickly move on to Mr. Leach. I don't know if you can see us or not. I'm trying to point the phone at us, but I have no idea whether you guys are seeing us. So, Mr. Leach, will you state your name and address, please?
Jeffrey Leach, 1216 Tyler Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland.
And where is that in relation to Horn Point Harbor?
Well, that's my residence. The property next to Horn Point Harbor is my property also.
Okay. What is the address of that property?
125 Bayshore Avenue, Annapolis.
And you heard Mr. Fry testify that you were in between him and Horn Point Harbor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you oppose the Horn Point Harbor proposal?
Yes, I do.
And why?
Well, basically the same outline that we just went through is that the infringement on our riparian rights by the boats accessing and egressing the marina. The other concern I have is that our property tax base is a residential/commercial tax rate that we're paying. So the ability to convert the property or properties to a commercial use would also be very limited by what's going on.
Okay. Have you experienced any problems with the current boats from Horn Point Harbor?
Yes, personally, there's been a couple damages. 1 out of 3, the boat owner reached out and got a hold of me directly to rectify the damage incurred. 2 other times were mine to absorb.
Okay. Do you believe that the current proposal would actually make that more troublesome for you?
Yes, and there was another incident where the dock actually got hit and damaged by an unidentified boat that was coming in and out of the marina, but that was unsubstantiated, but I know where it came from.
And do you believe that the proposed structure will impact navigation in front of your property?
Yeah, I mean, it's already an issue. It's documented by video recordings of boats as they enter and egress the marina, and they basically use both our properties freely.
If you were to extend your dock all the way out, as you have the right to do, how would that impact the neighboring property, Horn Point Harbor?
It would not, it would just totally choke off the boat's ability to come and go from the marina.
Do currently all the boats in Horn Point Harbor have to cross through right in front of your pier to get into the marina?
80% of them. The one pier that's adjacent to our property, those boats generally can come and go without that infringement.
And do you believe that the proposed structure would have an impact on your property values?
Yes, I did.
And you heard Mr. Fry testify about a meeting that you and he had with Mr. Lehner at Horn Point Harbor?
Yeah, I concur with everything he stated.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you, Mr. Leach. And lastly, I'm going to call, John, can you come over here? I'm going to call Mr. John Dowling. We'll whip through him very quickly. This is Mr. John Dowling, D-O-W-L-I-N-G. Would you state your name and address, please?
John Dowling, 115 Cathedral Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
And what do you do for a living, Mr. Dowling?
I am a licensed land surveyor and an attorney admitted to practice.
And how long have you been doing that?
I've been a surveyor since 1970 and an attorney since 1978.
Okay. And have you testified as an expert before the Port Wardens before?
I have.
And how about before the Anne Arundel County Circuit Court?
I have.
And other courts around the state?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to review the proposal of Horn Point Harbor before the Port Wardens?
I have.
And did you also visit the site at Horn Point Harbor and Mr. Fry and Mr. Leach's properties?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And as a result of those inspections and observations, do you have an opinion within a reasonable degree of certainty in the field of surveying as to whether the proposed structure will require vessels that are berthed at Point Harbor to infringe upon the developable waterway area of Mr. Leach and Mr. Fry.
They will. I witnessed it this morning.
Okay. Now, that was a long legal expert witness question, but if you could just elaborate a bit more on, in sort of more layman terms, about the basis of your opinion.
Well, virtually every boat, except for maybe the smallest, has to cross into the DWA of Mr. Leach and Mr. Fry.
Also, as a result of those inspections and observations, do you have an opinion to within a reasonable degree of certainty whether the proposed structures would render navigation more close and confined?
Well, it would. It would. It was for traffic. Just there's no way that Mr. Leach could extend his pier, and Mr. Fry would have the problem if he extended his pier. There would be a problem.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions, and I would sum up pointing out that under the Annapolis City Code, the factors that this board is to consider. Obviously, this, in our opinion, this application must be denied, and if it needs to be reworked and resubmitted, that's one opportunity. But essentially, with it being a non-conforming use, it really cannot be expanded and enlarged or added to in any way without bringing the entire marina into conformance. But more importantly, it cannot require all of the commercial traffic that goes in and out of there to cross across Mr. Leach's and Mr. Fry's developable waterway area. So we would respectfully request that this application be denied at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe we've addressed this before, and Mr. Hartman, you might recall, using the setback area, the 10-foot alleyway per se, is not infringing, or let me ask you, is that infringing on someone's riparian rights? So if someone uses the setback area by the lateral lines to traverse in or out to their respective dock.
Right. So the 5-foot setback area on each side, so it's only 5 feet, and it is supposed to allow that with the others, with the rest of the structure, to allow the vessels within that developable waterway area to access the navigable channel through theirs.
Correct.
Through their own. So it's not that the 5-foot is also some sort of easement to the other party. It is not that way. And
okay, great. I just wanted to get some clarification on that. The
Sure.
use of that 10-foot, because 5 foot on each side of the lateral line, is effectively the alleyway. It's not to call it infringing on riparian right is a little overstated. I just wanted to be clarified, and I understand, crossing across, there's areas outside of it, but we had this come up before, and I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Also, I'm looking at Google Earth right now, and I'm looking at 20 years, 24 years, 23 years of images, and I just want to verify, I guess, Mr. Patzler. Have the dolphin piles been in those exact locations? Because at least on the images I show, now I show some winter images where there's no boat, but almost every single year that there's a satellite image, there has been a boat in that same area on what would be the property side of this new attenuation wall. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
Who are you
I
asking?
think that's accurate. Seth Laner can answer directly to when those were installed better than I can, because it was before my time as the dock master and property manager. But
okay.
I also have looked back at satellite images and can confirm that those dolphin pilings have indeed been there as long as you can go back in recent history, and occupied by one boat only. Lee, a former diver that has since retired, he moored there for as far as I can remember.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out where besides the attenuation wall, which is definitely a much more of a permanent structure, I'm not seeing a massive alteration to the footprint that's been in place since 2002. And again, it's right in front of it, right on Google Images, year over year over year over year. I'm just curious.
I'll jump in,
Sure.
Robert. Good evening to everybody. Those dolphin piles were installed in, I believe in either 2000 or 2001.
Okay.
So you're accurate. Those dolphin piles have been there for at least 23 years. They haven't moved since. The proposed application that Joe drew up for us doesn't change any demarcation whatsoever from a harbor line or a lateral line or an extended reach whatsoever. In fact, we haven't changed the number of usable slips. Mr. Hartman, if I heard properly, use the reference of, quote, commercial traffic. We do not have any commercial traffic going in and out of our slips. We do not lease to any commercial vessel or boat owner at this time. Not to say that we couldn't, but we don't. So for clarity, nothing you see on those drawings is outside of any rights that we have to develop inside the harbor line.
And Mr. Spear, if I can address, I don't disagree with Mr. Lehner on those points. Those
I'm sorry,
filings
one
have
more
been
time,
there.
Ed, if you don't mind, one more time.
Sure. I said I don't disagree with Mr. Lehner on those points.
Thank you.
The issue here is not whether or not those pilings are in the right place or not. The first point that I made is that the wall on the north side is within 5 feet of the lateral line, so that makes it a non-conforming use. But we're not here to address the pilings that have been in place for years. Those are there, and they have been there for a long time.
I'm sorry, Ed. I have been sworn in
Mr. Lehner, please
properly.
allow me to
So I'm
finish
going to
my
address, well, with all due respect, I got to stop
Mr.
you right
Shapiro,
there.
can
We
you
don't
keep
know
this-
there is nothing constructed at that property that's outside of the 5-foot setback from a harbor line. Now, if you have proof of some sort in this meeting that that's not the case, please present it.
Your own drawing shows the north wall is right against the lateral line. The north wall that face it does. You look, your own drawing shows that. So, and it's right. The lateral line.
I'll let Joe
touching the
speak
wall.
to that. I'll let Joe address it.
So the point,
Thank you.
I'm speaking to Mr. Shapiro. I'm not speaking to Mr. Lehner, but Mr. Shapiro. The point being that we're not here to discuss. So that is not an issue whether or not the pilings are there. It could be an issue with the fact that the boats in there extend over the lateral line because that is prohibited by the code. But that, again, is not what we're here. What we're here about is a new enlargement and addition to the marina, which impacts my client's riparian rights and adds to the marina to a non-conforming use, which is not permitted. And it changes the navigational safety and impacts their riparian rights. And those are the basis on which the objection legally is made to the proposal by Horn Point Harbor. Nothing to do with those findings.
And Mr. Harmon, I actually understand and I see the same thing you're saying. The only dilemma sort of we have with historical stuff, things that have been in place, I mean, for multiple years, you can get permission, as you know, to have a neighbor's permission to be closer to a respective lateral line than just the 5-foot rule. And so we don't know, again, let me see what the earliest date of looking. So it looks like that dock was there. We start getting fuzzy pictures when we start getting back to 1994 or 1989. It actually, I have an image that goes back to that only usable one is 89. And it looks like that dock was in the exact same location based on the neighbor's dock and stuff like that. So the problem with that, it suffices to sort of leverage the grandfather. It's been here forever when someone wants it. And then it hurts when someone wants to use it as an excuse. The majority of the neighbor along that wall is really the city because it's the harbor line, right? And that's certainly off the lateral line. And of course, we have the other neighbor in the minor. But I don't know, as the port warden only for the past a few years, I don't know what was said. I do agree with you that I wish they did show the actual 5-foot setback, but it may not be non-conforming to the extent that that should cause a denial. But this might be a carry discussion as well to figure out how some of these things that have been here so historically long, you
Well,
know.
I can offer a little bit of insight on that, Mr. Shapiro, because one,
Sure.
the code section that talks about not being able to violate the lateral lines is relatively new compared to many of the marinas and structures in the city of Annapolis, because back before the 80s and the early 70s and even in the 60s, each particular project was an ordinance and a resolution in and of itself. And
Okay.
then at a certain time, they began imposing the code, and they had to recognize that there were certain things already in place. And they were sort of, and there's a specific code section that talks about that. And what it does is it acknowledges the existence of structures that are in violation of the current code. And by doing that, they don't require them to be taken out. So Mr. Lehner is not required to take out that marina, but it is acknowledged as a non-conforming use because the language of that section is mandatory. It says no portion of the marina shall be located less than 5 feet away from a lateral line. So that's okay. That's a non-conforming use, but it also says the non-conforming use cannot be added to or enlarged. But even without all that, the additional area, the impact is on the other side of the marina, which is where the wave break impacts my client's riparian rights and navigational use. And I'll tell you a little bit about the history. This marina was built by my father's law partner, Bennett Crane, shortly after my father built his marina at Annapolis Landing Marina. And it was a time when the code was not as specific and you were actually allowed to go a third of the way across. But that's not what the code is now. The code's pretty clear what it says now. And Mr. Lehner is absolutely entitled to continue to operate his marina, but he's not entitled to enlarge it or add on to it unless the rest of the marina is brought into compliance.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Ed, may I directly ask you a question for a moment? Would you kindly repeat that one more time? We're not allowed to do what again, according to your interpretation of the rule?
I'm not going to get into a debate with you, Mr. Lehner. You and I've done this way too many
I didn't
times.
ask for a debate. I asked for clarity.
Yeah, let's
I
mean, effectively, it doesn't look like it's growing. All right, I don't know if you're adding to it. That's sort of the thing. Furthermore, it quite honestly, a wave attenuation wall, considering we know what that wind direction is like from there, could be actually helpful. I mean, there's all these things that could come into play. But the question is it sort of let me let the other port wardens please step in, gentlemen. What are your do you have any questions for Mr. Hartman, or do you go ahead, Mr. Siegel?
Yeah, I do. Let me back up and take a couple of things in order. It was alleged potentially that the drawings that we have are not accurate. Can the Horn Point Harbor Marina attest to the fact that these drawings are accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Can the people that are challenging this give me any evidence that these drawings are not accurate?
Mr. Siegel, Mr. Packler is not an engineer and he's not a surveyor. And
no,
so
Mr. Lewis is the one who
a direct question.
I want to respond.
Do you have any evidence to tell me that the drawings I have in my hand are not accurate at this point in time?
Well, allow me to answer that in my own words, if you would. So, one, my response is it's incumbent upon the applicant to show that they have not. It's incumbent upon drawings to be signed by an engineer or surveyor. It is not. But second,
no, it is not incumbent upon. No, I will stop you. It is not. They do not have to do anything that they don't want to have to do. There's nothing that says that they have to have anybody do anything. They can do a hand drawing thing if they want. But at this point, they have testified, sworn that these documents are accurate. Do you have any evidence that they are not?
Again, please allow me to finish my statement.
No, it was a yes, no answer.
I don't need it to be inaccurate. My point is that it is
yes,
accurate, then
Let's move on. Next question. Next question I have for you. Do they have the next question? I'm satisfied with what I've heard. I'm satisfied with what I've heard. Next question. Okay. Do they have riparian rights equal to yours?
Equal?
Do they have equal riparian rights? Okay.
Of course they do.
So you are challenging their riparian rights, correct?
No, I'm not. Not
Then
at
they
all.
are, and then they are entitled to what they can do according to the riparian rights that they are entitled to. Is that correct?
They are entitled to direct access to the navigable channel. They are not entitled
Right.
to come across the developable waterway of contiguous property. They have chosen
Right.
to block off access to the channel with the
Okay.
seawall, and so
That's
they
the-
can't.
Yes,
So it's
that's
a
the next, I was
voluntary
going to
situation
get to that.
They have created.
Next question. Do you have any evidence at this point in time that your property values are and will be changed according to by them putting in that, that additional, seawall?
I have testimony from my clients that in their opinion, which is legally admissible, that their property values will go down because they're in their
Do you have anything,
right there.
do you have anything more, do you have
Finish.
anything more than that, than their opinion? Because they're obviously have a bias.
Of course they have a bias there. It's their
Yes.
property. And
I
that's why
understand. Do you have
Maryland
any
law.
hard evidence? Do you have any
Mr.
hard
Siegel,
evidence
do I get to answer
they're?
any of the questions that you asked me?
Yeah,
You just
please,
don't cut me off.
let's let Mr. Hardman answer, Mr. Fiegel. Just give him a chance to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the point is that this is quite comfortable in Maryland law that property owners are entitled to testify to the opinions and the value of their property and how the impact. There's also a fundamental logic that goes along with the concept that, in fact, if you're unable to fully develop your own developable waterway area with a pier that would otherwise be allowed to go out to the lateral line, to the harbor line, that is a reduction of your riparian rights and your impact. And that I think it's a bit of a common sense statement, but they offered their opinion. That is evidence under Maryland law, and it is valuable evidence. Yes.
If in effect, then you you drew a dock and a pier all the way out as far as you could to the harbor line, that would in effect, what you're saying, potentially affect their riparian rights.
No, it would not, because their riparian rights do not allow them to go sideways across my client's developable waterway areas. They are required to go straight to the navigable channel. And again, that has been, if you look at the drawing, that has been blocked off by their own construction.
The final thing I did have, and I don't want to take up too much time. I was looking at the Google map stuff as well. There are those kind of pilings that are holding that sailboat in place there at the end. That's about the extent of where the new pier would go to, correct?
The wave attenuation wall, yes.
Yeah, the wave attenuation wall. Isn't that what I'm looking at?
I believe that the wave attenuation wall will be on the outside of that sailboat. I'm not sure which Google picture you're looking at.
Yeah, that sailboat right there. Yeah.
Right. It appears that it goes all the way to the harbor line.
So
it would attenuation wall.
Yeah, would that wave attenuation wall extend past where that last piling is located there? I'm hearing somebody saying no.
I can't see the piling, but I believe it goes to that piling.
Well, then
that's correct.
It's hard to tell from the drawing.
But then that's
correct.
all he's asking. Well, then there's no change in what he's asking than what is now.
Yes, there is a change. It extends farther than what is there now. It is an addition and an enlargement to the situation, which requires boats to go around. When that large boat is not in that particular slip, there's even more room. But as you can see, that boat is extending at the moment across into that area. But
I'll let somebody else talk and get
there's
back
not
to
always
it.
a boat there, and it's a permanent structure which extends beyond that which is there now.
Okay,
Hey, Chair, I just wanted to make one comment regarding the legally non-conforming. There is a date on that. So when you look at the lateral line setback, 15/18/100, the marina, if the marina was installed prior to February 11th, 1980, this would not apply.
Right, that's what I was testifying to. We're talking about earlier. So it is grandfathered in, so it means you don't have to remove it, but you also means you can't enlarge it or add on to it.
But it doesn't, I mean, at least according to the drawings, and they do look accurate, and we can, I guess, ask Mr. Lewis's qualifications. I assume, Mr. Lewis, you're the one who put this together, correct?
Yes, correct. I put this drawing together, and the method of putting these together is actually we use photogrammetry and GPS, aerial GPS to put this together. And we do put our name on it, and more than welcome if anybody wants to come out and check a measurement. Please, we'll go out there and check measurements. We believe we have about a 1-inch accuracy. And I'd also like to point out that in the accuracy of the drawings that we prepared, that the lateral lines seem to be agreed that they're shown in the correct locations. I haven't heard any arguments about the lateral lines. The harbor line seems to be shown in the correct location. I haven't heard any arguments to the accuracy of anything specific, but I think everybody agrees that those established riparian lines are accurate. I'd also like to point out when it comes to navigation that the navigable waters of the United States is actually in the jurisdiction of the United States. It's not a city of Annapolis jurisdiction. It's not a state of Maryland jurisdiction. We come across this quite often. Of course, we do try to reach out to the neighbors and definitely don't want to block anybody in any way. But as far as navigation, everybody is allowed to navigate through your riparian area. That riparian area is actually owned by the United States, not the property owners.
Right, but we do want to keep an eye on, the port wardens keep an eye on increasing the level of difficulty, potential damage. There are some things in play that we do have a little bit of purpose here. So I hear what you're saying, Mr. All right, let's move this on. What other port wardens have any questions or comments? Mr. McCobb.
I have a question for Mr. Lewis. Do you have any, or can you provide any testimony as to the distance between that existing pier on the northeast side of the drawing and the lateral lines? What that distance is?
Sure, I have our mapping up right now. You're talking about on the northeast side, there's a little pier. It's maybe 50 or 60 feet in length.
It would be the
really northeast.
Yeah, it seems like it's a pretty long pier. It goes the entire
I see which one, yeah.
length of the marina, and it seems to be the widest pier.
I have a setback from the lateral line of 16 feet 10 inches from the lateral line to that pier, and from the closest adjacent improvement, I have a distance of 45 feet 10 inches between the improvements that would be navigable to both property owners.
That's on the southwest side. I think Mr. McCobb is asking about
on the north.
Am I correct, Mr. McCobb?
Yeah, that's right. The north side.
Sure. From the lateral line to the, I guess you would call it the platform. Mm-hmm. We have 44 feet 4 inches.
No, to the lateral line. To the lateral line.
The lateral line.
Pier B, the length of Pier B. How close is it to that lateral line?
Yeah, Pier B. Yep.
Oh, Pier B to that lateral line. From what I saw, I think there may have been a fence which we use to establish a boundary. It's 2 feet 10 inches.
Okay, but we don't know if, I mean, again, the neighbor is effectively the city because the harbor line. But for the back piece of property, which it does cut in a little, but not. I'm looking at a 2010 image. But like I said, I mean, I think this goes back to this marina existed prior to that respective date. So I don't know if this dictates, and considering it doesn't appear to have any growth, then I'm not sure we're looking at a drastic alteration. It's almost just the wave attenuation wall being put. Am I correct in saying that they're not going to protrude beyond the dolphin, I guess southeastmost side of the dolphin piles? Because they're being removed, I realize, but as far as where they exist.
Mr. Shapiro, I'd be happy to jump in and refresh my testimony to you that we will not be installing any pilings, piers, anything whatsoever outside of our required lines, as Mr. Lewis has on that drawing.
Okay.
So
All right.
to answer your
Thank you.
question, no.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I'd like to also add that we've applied to the state of Maryland for the license for this improvement, and this is a category A. They've determined already that this is a category A license to add this, which means that we are still within the same footprint, and we're not expanding the marina beyond its existing footprint, and we're not adding any additional slips.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any other port wardens with any other questions?
Do we have, so normally in the memo we get, it says whether the property is a like non-conforming use or whether it's permitted use. So does the city, Brian or Carrie, do you have a comment as to whether the property is considered non-conforming or not?
Yeah, the application packet is what I think you're referring to, Jonathan.
Yeah, the application packet.
I looked for mine. I didn't see one.
So again, going by the code, if this marina was built prior to 1980, the lateral line setback doesn't apply. I could not find any evidence that this is a non-conforming structure. In past Port Wardens applications that have been approved by the board, this was a legal conforming structure.
Right, and you guys put that in the actual staff report. So,
can I ask who was talking there? Because I didn't see anybody's lips moving. So we've only got 8 people on the screen.
Sorry, this is Brian Adams with the City of Annapolis.
Planning and zoning.
Gotcha. Right.
Okay.
No. Right.
All
and
right.
In fact, just one last word, Mr. Spiro, is just that we don't dispute that it was legal at the time. And whether it's a non-conforming use seems to be with the 2'10" testimony beyond dispute. So we would, again, we're noting that for the record, and also the fact that the structure is, it has to be an addition because it's not there. And that doesn't mean that the code doesn't use the term increase in number of slips, it uses addition or enlargement. So again, we respectfully request that the language of the code clearly requires that this application be denied.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's go ahead. I believe all questions have been. Is there any more questions of Port Wardens? Yes or no? All right. With none here, I declare the public hearing on Port 2024-00005, 105 Eastern Avenue. So, based on the code, it doesn't look like the proposed structure barrier is not going to increase material water pollution. It doesn't look like the structure and barriers been approved by planning and zoning, and it doesn't look like everything related to harbor lines and setbacks look appropriate, especially for the age of the marina on that one side that doesn't have another dock on it, that northeast side. That of course is 15, 16, 20. The placement of the construction of other barriers don't look like they altered navigation at all, because there seemed to be always a vessel, at least based on 20 years of various photos. Most of the time in season, there's a vessel in that spot where the double bars are. But let's go ahead and are there any other code elements you Port Wardens think are an issue or could be a problem? All right. Let's go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny the application of Port 2024-0005, 105 Eastern Avenue. Port Warden, I can't make a motion. I need one of you to make a motion. If you
motion to approve.
Hey, Mr. Siegel, thank you very much. I need a second, please. Is there a second, Port Warden? To second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Mr. McCott. All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the motion of the application for Port.
Hold on, Robert.
Excuse me. Can we, at this point, is it appropriate now to have a discussion based on the motion?
Before we vote, yeah.
Yes, yes. All right.
So I have a question real quick, if anybody, Chairman. So where does it actually, I'm looking at the drawing right now in the proposed new finger pier area and wave break area. Where does it actually cut off Mr. Leach's access? It doesn't, does it?
I think there's a boat park there, and there's two dolphin piles, right?
Well, I'm looking at the very corner, the bottom corner of the proposed pier plan, and it's a heavy dark line, and that's just marking the harbor line. At first, when I first saw that, I thought that was actually part of the wave attenuator.
Right. The wave attenuator is best seen on 4 of 5 of 6, and
right.
And it's yeah, it looks like it's, again, it looks like the southwest corner of that is where the dolphin pile was prior look. Again, I'm saying 20 years. That's all I'm seeing as far as the satellite images. And then on the south east corner, it looks like that part of the wave attenuation system is where the dolphin pile was or is currently, but to be removed. So it doesn't look like there's an increase or of reduction in any. If there's a vessel in there, no one could pass through that section anyway, and it appears based on most of the satellite images that there's always been a vessel in that location.
Well, I'm looking at it from Mr. Leach's standpoint of having direct access to the channel. He goes straight out from his dock, correct? Without interference. Right?
Yes. But I think he might be.
So there is no interference with his riparian rights getting out of his property.
Right. I think his point was.
I'm sorry, I'll jump in. You're correct, Mr. Anderson.
All right. And it appears his point is that it could be tighter to get out, but it doesn't look like anything is changing based on what historically has been there as far as the ability to navigate in and out of that respective location.
Well, if you look at the
Anderson,
drawing,
I'll point out, I apologize.
Hold on. Mr. Lerner, public testimony has been closed.
It's finished. It's now the Port Wardens discussing the facts. Okay.
So if you look at the drawings and the existing versus the difference is, I guess it's what, 30 feet that it'll come out towards the lateral line. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes, there will be the wave attenuation wall.
Yeah, the very end, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that's where the boat is.
But like I said, it appeared in the prior image that their dolphin piles were there, and a vessel has appeared in every shot in that exact location for X number of years, at least on the satellite images.
And there was testimony that it was cutting off access to the channel, right? That you'd have to go around.
Exactly.
That's not the case.
It looks to me that the only thing that's being done is he's putting in a hard pier versus the pilings.
Right.
The pilings are there to on either side of that vessel. Now he's just putting a pier there. It's not affecting anything other than a wave break.
There's one tiny extra thing, Harold, just so you and that is the small tiny pier between what looks like slip 29 and 28. That's the only additional the finger pier that's coming off of there. But
right. But
I agree. And really there's a relocation of the other smaller one. But yes, to me, as far as anything permanent that could be construed as, I wouldn't call it growth, I would call it change. But it's not my place to call it anything. It just looks like it's the wave attenuation wall which you're not going to sail through a vessel or navigate through a vessel that was docked there anyway, which it looks like the prior 20 years there always has been. At least
then too, as you mentioned also, that looks like it's a little bit of would be more of a protection, wave attenuation of of his neighbors as well.
Yeah, but that's not the neighbors may like waves. I mean, it's not that's not part of the element.
Right.
All right. Any more discussion? Jonathan, you always got good points.
I mean, the only thing that I'm still thinking about is the non-conforming use part. But we have testimony from the city that, says that it is permitted use. But we also have the 2.5 feet measurement from Mr. Lewis. So I'm sort of going back and forth on that and the interpretation of that 1980 date and making additions to it. So that's the part that I'm still thinking about.
You made a good point there. In the testimony, it was stated that for that lateral line, they used a fence as the demarcation line. Do we know that that was actually surveyed at one time and that was accurate where that fence was that they were going off of? Know what they said?
Yeah, I think that's right.
So that tells me right there that it wasn't maybe surveyed right. I don't know.
Right. So I think
survey's in the question. Yeah.
The only compelling, evidence is that the city said that it's a permitted use. So I think that's the compelling testimony and evidence that we have.
Yeah, you're right. That's certainly empirical data, right?
Okay, let's keep this moving forward. So I guess let's get back, and I do apologize at the discussion part. I had missed over that, so I apologize. But all right, so let's entertain a motion to approve it. And I know Harold had made one, and it actually did get seconded by, I believe, Mr. McCopp. So there is a motion for Port 2024-0005, 105 Eastern Avenue. All right, and it's been seconded by Mr. McCopp. All those in favor of the motion to approve the application for Port 2025-00005 at 105 Eastern Avenue, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that looks unanimous. Did I miss anybody on that one? So thank you very much. Let's move to the motion has been approved. All right. Let's go ahead and move to new business. And hopefully this one will go nice and smooth. We have next item on the agenda is Port 2024-0007. Actually, that was 4000007. James Bonham, 6 Loudon Lane. It's pretty lengthy description, but it's to replace 98 feet of timber bulkhead, removing existing pier and pilings, construct 207-foot long pier with 20 by 10-foot platform and 1 mooring pile, and construct a 3 by 50 pier extension, 2 boat lifts and associated piles. So let's go ahead and Mr. Hildebrand, if you can bring in anyone who is going to testify or speak to this particular application.
They are in, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And if you would give me 1 second so I can open up the actual item we use, the drawing package. And who will be, I see Mr. Bonham in here, and I see Mr. Snyder. Are both of you going to speak, or do both of you want to be sworn in?
Yeah, we can both be sworn in.
Okay, great. All right. So, all right, anyone planning to testify, please raise your right hand. All right. You do solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give the Port Wardens is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. As a preliminary matter, the board will accept into record the application packet, the staff report, and planning and zoning, and any public comments. Mr. Adams, do you have any existing public comments or anyone here to speak to this particular matter?
I've received no written testimony, and I'm not aware of anyone here to speak on this application.
Okay. Mr. Snyder, I assume you will be doing most of the technical presentation?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you give a very brief description of your qualifications that are relevant to this application?
Yes, my name is Chris Snyder. I work for Waterfront Engineering Design. I am the consultant / agent for Mr. Bonham. As most of you have seen me many a times, this is shoreline restoration, construction, piers. This is what we do. We've been doing it for over 20 years.
Okay, thank you very much. And let me go ahead and turn the application or put it in your hands, and if you could let us know.
Perfect. I'm going to share with you at this time. I think this screen will make it much easier to understand what is staying and what is remaining. So let me know if you can see that all right. Can you see the screen that I'm sharing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Just brief summary. What's in red is being removed. What is blue is what is being proposed. What is new aside from the new pier itself. Okay. The applicants are seeking approval to replace approximately 98 linear feet of timber bulkhead along the shoreline of 6 Loudon Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. Currently, there is an existing bulkhead that is in replacement and is too low for this portion of shoreline on the Severn. This portion of bulkhead is constantly underwater and will continue to be so with sea level rise and flooding situations, as we've seen astronomical high tides this year thus far. This is rather apparent by the lack of grass growth that is along the bulkhead. The new bulkhead will be constructed 18 inches channelward of the existing bulkhead and will be raised approximately 1 foot. The new bulkhead will tie into the existing neighboring bulkhead to ensure a seamless transition. In addition, the applicants are seeking the approval to replace in kind a 270-foot long by 6-foot wide pier with a 20-foot by 10-foot long platform at the end and 1 mooring pile. This pier replacement includes the addition of a 50-foot long by 3-foot wide finger pier extension with 3 mooring piles, 2 dolphin piles, as well as 2 boat lifts and their associated piles. The floating platform and 2 mooring piles are also to be removed as part of this plan. All the proposed improvements lie well within the lateral lines and their setbacks. The purpose and need of these pier modifications is to allow for safe boating practices when docking his 2 boats, one of which draws over 7 feet of water at the end of the pier. This portion of the Severn is subject to northeastern winds and high boat traffic, which can make it difficult to moor vessels to the existing pier under certain conditions. Later on, the applicant will speak about this hardship. At this time, we have received no objections from any of the adjacent neighbors. Lastly, the applicants have already received authorization from the Maryland Department of the Environment and the United States Army Corps of Engineers. We appreciate your time and consideration in reviewing this matter. So, Mr. Bonham, if you want to talk more about kind of the hardship you deal with the existing pier conditions.
Thanks, Chris, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It fundamentally comes down to we're on a very busy section of the Severn River between the Academy Bridge and the Route 50 Bridge. On high traffic weekends like this last weekend, we are dealing with a sea state that's quite mixed and challenging. If you get the wind from the wrong direction, it's very difficult to moor to the dock in reverse, which is the only option that we have to safely step off the vessel. So we want to add the finger pier on the side so that we can come in either bow first or stern first, depending upon the sea state, and still safely get off the vessel. That's really what it comes down to, that and the ability to moor both of our boats at the property.
Okay. All right. Can we, I guess, we can, it's easier probably, Chris, can you unshare this, and then if we need it, I'll
Yeah,
call you
certainly,
in.
certainly.
Okay, yeah, it closed off my entire screen of everything.
I'm sorry about
I mean,
that.
I know I can get back to it. I just thought, all right, let's go ahead. And am I correct, Mr. Adams? There are no public comments about this or any other person here to speak about this particular application, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, great. All right. So, I guess I really don't have many questions. It looks as far as the critical elements that we're always contemplating, the setbacks, the how far you are from the harbor line. A lot of times extending a pier sometimes is fishy because people are trying to push it way too far. But I actually think you're well within you're certainly well within because you can be all the way up to that harbor line. But I think it's a nice, safe scenario for the spot you're in. It doesn't impede on navigation at all. As a matter of fact, the piers on the one to your to the 50 bridge is or towards the Naval Academy side is longer, and the 1-2 away from you is even longer. So you're not going to protrude anywhere, that is likely to be a navigational issue. Let me ask Port Wardens, do you guys have any questions of Mr. Snyder, Mr. Bonham?
Just to confirm on the drawings, the yellow line is the setback. I didn't see a label for it, but I just wanted to confirm for the record.
On what sheet? Yes, you are correct. Yes, on the overlaid sheet with the aerial. Yes.
Yeah, yep. That would be, yeah.
That's correct. That is a 5-foot setback.
5 of 17. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Siegel? Mr. Anderson? Okay, Mr. Lerner? Okay. All right. Let's it doesn't look like, let's go ahead and declare the public hearing on Port 2024-00007 to 407 address closed. Let's go ahead, deliberations. I really don't have, I mean, I looked through the application yesterday and today, and I mean, everything looks exactly as it should. I like the level of detail. I mean, actually, it's what you're doing with the bulkhead and sort of raising it, I think, is bright with where we're at with Wooders, especially this season. So, I mean, to me, it looks great. It's not an issue for navigation. It's got the city's stamp of approval as far as the staff report, and that it is conforming. The harbor lines are obviously set. I sort of appreciate that you didn't have to go all the way to the harbor line. You sort of set it back a little bit. That is I think a good element out there. Any more discussion, Port Wardens? Okay. Let's go ahead and I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny the application Port 2024-0007, James Bonham, 6 Loudon Lane.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, Mr. Anderson, thank you very much. Seconded by Mr. McCopp. Thank you very much. All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the application Port 2024-00007, James Bonham, 6 Loudon Lane, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
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 All right, Mr. Siegel, did I get that? Okay, great. Unanimous. Thank you very much. The motion is approved. All right. The next matter, which is Port 2024-00008, City of Annapolis, Tucker Street. I am going to recuse myself. I live on that street. My wife is the HOA representative. So I am going to go ahead and the Vice Chair Anderson will now proceed over this hearing and this application. And I get to watch.
So can we go ahead and bring forward anybody that's planning on testifying for this
They've been
application?
brought forward, sir.
Thank you so much. Can we go ahead and swear those guys in? Anyone that is going to testify, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm under the penalty of perjury and the testimony you're about to give to the Port Wardens is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, do we have everybody? Yes? Okay, thank you. As a preliminary matter, the board will accept on the record the application packet, the staff report from planning and zoning, and any public comments. Do we have public comments? We have a lot of public comments, don't we? Brian?
Yeah, we do. And I forwarded comments from John Vale at 1081 Carriage Hill Court earlier today.
I think I saw that.
Also received public comments from Marie Pojita at 411 Monterey Avenue, and she is planning to give live testimony.
Okay.
And I also forwarded comments from Susan Shapiro at 311 Tucker Street, and I believe she's also here to give live testimony.
Okay. Well, we're here for testimony from the applicants and the city of Annapolis and the members of the public. So who's going to testify on behalf of the application? Hello?
So, hi,
Hello?
I'm Anna Johnson. I'm a coastal engineer with Bayland Consultants, and we are the design consultant on this project.
Okay.
So if I may share my screen, I'd like to just discuss the proposed project a bit. A little introduction to myself. I'm a professional engineer. I have a master's in coastal engineering. Bayland Consultants and Designers has been working in Anne Arundel County for the past 28 years, doing similar type projects, mainly focusing on shoreline protection and water access projects. So the Tucker Street Boat Ramp project is a replacement of the current boat ramp with kind of a more standard construction boat ramp that is also addressing initiatives of the city to increase public access and ADA accessibility to the waters of Annapolis. I'm sharing now. Hopefully you can see my screen because I don't see what I'm sharing. So I'm hoping you can see it. But the project, this is the current configuration of the boat ramp. It's a geogrid ramp that's filled with gravel. It's about 40 feet long and 12 feet wide. And it is the city is proposing to replace it with a concrete boat ramp so I'm sorry to give some dimensions. So it's a 55-foot long by 22 foot wide concrete boat ramp that also has a 60-foot long floating pier associated with it that connects to an abutment, and an L-shaped floating pier. And attached to the floating pier would be a 15-foot long kayak launch that I can, here at the bottom, here is a picture of what that kayak launch would look like. The boat ramp itself is reinforced concrete, and it's got a boulder flank wall on either side. And also as part of this, we're going to be adding a little bit of sand on the side to facilitate kayak launching, or just a soft launch for canoes and kayaks and that sort of thing. The figure here shows the lateral lines extended from the shoreline. The harbor line is out here, so I apologize for not showing quite the intersection of the lateral lines with the harbor line, but the harbor line is 55 feet away from the extent of the project. And also the 5-foot offset. We specifically designed the configuration and kind of the rotation of the boat ramp to stay outside of the 5-foot offset per city code. So I believe that is all that I have to share. So we can open it up to discussion. And I can stop sharing if you'd like to.
Yes, please do, and we'll move forward.
Sure.
Port Wardens, does anybody have any comments, questions? Hello? I, for one, don't see any issues with anything in particular. Anybody?
Looks good.
Okay, all right. Public comments? There's 4 people forward, please.
They just need to unmute. They're able to speak.
Okay, please folks unmute. Look, you can hear me. Ask them to unmute.
Okay, they're both unmuted.
Okay. Public comments, please. Who'd like to go first?
I don't mind starting. This is Susan Shapiro.
Hello, Susan. How are you? Please proceed.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to provide comments regarding the Tucker Street ramp. My name is Susan Shapiro. I'm the president of the Tucker Landing Community Association, the TLCA. We're the 5 homes on Tucker Street that are closest to the ramp. As Robert Shapiro mentioned, he is my husband. I know he's recused himself. The Tucker Street ramp is in a small residential section of West Annapolis. Tucker Street runs right past West Annapolis Elementary School. TLCA, our homeowners group, strongly supports waterfront access for all. The existing ramp at Tucker Street already provides waterfront access for all. We use the ramp. We love watching other people use the ramp, and we love watching them enjoy Weems Creek. TLCA does not support the city's proposed ramp project because it provides no new waterfront access capabilities while simultaneously taking a sleepy residential street end and trying to turn it into a mini Truxton Park. Tucker Street has neither the space nor the facilities to be a mini Truxton Park. The project is wrong for the neighborhood and it's wrong for Weems Creek. The existing Tucker Street ramp is a geogrid gravel ramp flanked on both sides by a small beachy area. The beach and ramp together are perhaps 50 feet wide. The city has taken to calling it Tucker Street Park, which is an overstatement. It is a street end. The Tucker Street ramp is at the end of a small neighborhood street that has almost no parking. It is not wide enough for 2 trailers to pass in opposite directions. It has a very small cul-de-sac by the ramp that is already too small for some of the trucks and trailers that try and come in and launch their boats and turn around here. It has no public restroom. But what the existing Tucker Street ramp is the existing ramp is perfect for beaching multiple dinghies from transient and moored boats in Weems Creek, something that I believe the city is obligated to do for the people that take a mooring. It's perfect for families to hang out by the water, let their dogs swim. It's perfect for launching multiple kayaks, dinghies, and paddleboards all at the same time. It's perfect for launching small boats, whalers, sunfish. The existing ramp is perfect, except that the geogrid is in disrepair. The question is what to do about it. TLCA wants to retain the small street end geogrid ramp and small beachy area, or have a much smaller project than what the city has proposed. TLCA has attended meetings on this for years. We've submitted lengthy written comments to every involved agency for years. We have been told that if there is any improvement to the ramp beyond merely fixing the geogrid, that the smallest the structure can be is what the city is now proposing to the port wardens. At one point, a city official candidly admitted in a public meeting, should this project be in this Tucker Street neighborhood? Of course not. And yet the project keeps inexplicably grinding forward. The city's proposed ramp will take an undisturbed natural residential street and pave it with a 22-foot wide concrete ramp bordered on both sides by big stone jetties and bollards, accompanied by a 60-foot pier that extends out into Weems Creek with an 18-foot L hanging off the side and a kayak launch at the end. The city's project is going to encourage more trucks, larger trucks and trailers to drive past Weems Creek Elementary to launch these bigger boats. The city's project will replace almost the entirety of the beachy public street end. What little beach remains is almost entirely private and not city property. So instead of launching kayaks and paddleboards and dinghies simultaneously from the beach, users will have to wait till the ramp is vacant, or they're going to have to schlep their kayaks down a 50-foot pier. Healthy kayakers have said in public meetings with the city, we can't carry our kayak 50 feet down the pier. The city's proposed project will create a launching bottleneck. Instead of a few dozen feet of beach, there will be one ramp, one at a time, launching of dinghies, boats, kayaks, and paddleboards, whereas now simultaneously they can all launch and unlaunch together. More people will be waiting. More people will need to go to the bathroom. More of them will elect to do it in front of us across the street from our homes in the woods because there are no public facilities here. Who's going to police who ties up to the pier after they launch their boats and while they go drive around West Annapolis hoping to find somewhere to park and then walk back? What's going to happen with the emergency vehicles that need to use our street? They're going to turn onto Tucker Street to find a bottleneck of trucks and trailers that can't be passed and they can't be turned around. Annapolis should have as much waterfront access available to the public as is possible, but not every waterfront access point in Annapolis can or should be the same. Murray Hill has at least 11 street end parklets providing water access to Spot Creek. 7 of those are similar to Tucker Street. All of these parklets are in residential neighborhoods like Tucker Street. None have ample parking like Tucker Street. None can accommodate lots of traffic like Tucker Street. All waterfront access in these locations fits their neighborhood surroundings. None feel like Truxton Park. None are made to be like mini Truxtons. Yet the city inexplicably wants to make Tucker Street a mini Truxton. I promise this is going to end soon. None of that is to disparage Truxton Park. Truxton Park is a terrific public launching facility that the city should be very, very proud of. It's designed to accommodate lots of public use. I think it's, 200 acres or something. It has 2 large concrete boat ramps with adjacent finger piers, a broad shoreline with nearby large floating docks, a large paved circle for vehicles and trailers to turn in, lots of public parking in several parking lots, restrooms, tennis, pickleball, swimming, playground, all of that moved away from where the big trucks and trailers are turning around and backing boats into the water. Truxton Park is amazing, and it's a great spot for the city. And according to Google Maps, it is a 12-minute drive from the Tucker Street ramp. There is no need to make Tucker Street a mini Truxton. Doing so will not provide any additional waterfront access than what is available now. It will just pave over our sleepy, beachy street end, pave over a place where people happily hang out, launch small boats, throw balls to their dogs. The city would be best suited by fixing the existing geogrid ramp, or if at all possible, radically rethinking and revising and reducing its plan for Tucker Street. The city could use the savings to create actually new waterfront access for the citizens of Annapolis. I very much appreciate your time and consideration of this viewpoint. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Anybody else have anything to add? Look. All right. Yes. Were you going to say something? Harold? Yes, please, Harold.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was excellent. This one's kind of interesting to me. It's quite compelling where the city has really two interests. One is to increase water access, but it also has the burden in protecting citizens' interests. And here I've been down there and I've seen it, and it's a cute little access. It's nothing fancy, but if the city put a dock in there, I can see where the city wants to make something look beautiful. And it isn't beautiful down there. It's just stone down there. It's easy to get into the water, easy to get out. There is no parking. It's a cul-de-sac. There is no parking there, and I'm a little concerned that if it gets to be more than what it is, that it will want to have more cars, et cetera, et cetera. And
well,
Harold, there's no parking. So
Harold, yeah,
I'm kind of thinking that for the city to do this, I think they need to come back and show us what the compelling interest is to increase it over what it is now.
Right.
And I don't see that.
So
at this
I
point.
would like to speak to some of the comments regarding usability and especially increased usability, because this project is not meant to increase water access in the sense that draw for more people to use it, in that it's not providing parking. There's no additional parking provided. So every boat that is trailered to the site will then have to leave the site to park. So this is not it's not a direct comparison to Truxton Park, which has ample parking for trailered vehicles. The intent of this project is to formalize the use of the boat ramp for safety and ADA inclusion. So the only increase in access that is proposed is really meant to make this ADA accessible, which is the reason for the abutment and the floating ramp. So the floating ramp would be designed for ADA accessibility to the kayak launch and to actually getting on and off the boats. So that was the driving reason for adding the floating dock to it. Aside from the floating dock, the actual launch area itself is only 15 feet wide, which is only a 3-foot increase to the launch area now, which is 12 feet wide. And the reason for the 15 feet wide is that's just a safety, when you're trying to back your boat up, 15 feet wide gives a little bit more wiggle room before you're, hitting things or running your trailered boat off of the side. I also want to speak I know from a plan view, the stone flank walls appear to be jetties, but they're not. They're stones that actually go down with the ramp. So the majority of the stones are underwater along with the ramp. So you really are only seeing 2 or 3 or 4 stones that are exactly well, I don't want to say exactly level, that would be inaccurate. They're about half a foot to a foot higher than the ramp elevation itself. But those are more meant to keep sediment from moving on and off the ramp. And not a jetty the way that we think of jetties where we see them in navigation channels. So those were just points that I wanted to make, that it's the boat ramp is going to be formalized for safety and inclusion, ADA accessibility.
When people come on their dinghies from their mooring balls, where are they going to put their dinghies?
So the reason that we are including the sandy area for also to address people who don't necessarily want to walk down the pier to launch off of the kayak launch, but also the sandy area, and that's also for pulling up your dinghies or tying them up to the bollard there.
Okay. It seems like the stones discourage people from taking their dinghies in and out of the water or putting a kayak in or out, and it seems like if you're going to dedicate what small beach is left to both dinghy parking and people who want to put their kayaks or canoes or what have you in or out, it's going to be even a tighter space, right?
The stones themselves will only be about 2 to 3 feet wide, which even if you were to construct like a timber flank wall, you're kind of looking with the same width, just given that, you've got to drive a pile and then you've got the actual timber that makes the wall. So the stones themselves, and you need that kind of side protection for the boat ramp, or else you're going to have the concrete of the poured concrete for the ramp exposed to coastal processes.
Right. I think what you say that you don't intend it, but I think there's probably going to be unintended consequences, right? That people will start using it. I use it to launch a 10-foot rib, but maybe I'll go down and launch my 20-something foot boat down there because it'll be easier to do it there than to go to Truxton. So even if you don't intend for people to do that, I think that's going to be the case, that people are going to start using it more than they do now.
Oh,
With bigger
absolutely.
boats.
Easier public access is a goal for the project, but the project is not intended to increase public access, if that makes sense. Maybe you don't launch your 20-foot boat because it's too difficult, it's too tight, it's too small of a ramp. I guess making it safer and easier and more user-friendly could have the side effect of actually people using it more. That is true. And I do think that the city does intend to have public access there, but we're not providing parking in an effort to not make the area too congested.
Just to confirm, those rocks on the side of that pier that goes out, the floating pier, those will be submerged.
So if you I'm sorry, let me share one more time to more clearly. So yeah, I should have had a photo kind of prepared, but so these are just slightly over the elevation of this, and so this ramp actually slopes down at a 14-to-1 slope. So I will show you the cross section here. So if you can imagine, the stones line the ramp. This here is the mean high water line. So most of the stones are actually submerged. So if you're standing at the top of the ramp looking down, you're going to see a few of the stones as it ramps down, but you will see the pier for sure, because the pier is going to be this is if you're in the water and you're looking back, this is the image you would see. And so you would see the pier and the pier pile for its entire length, but the ramp itself will actually go underwater.
Okay.
So dinghies would be able to sort of go around that kayak, floating kayak platform, and then there would be, they could tie up along that floating pier on the inside there.
Absolutely, yes. That was, I think I did not mention that, but there is an intent to add some cleats along this L. One of the reasons why this L was included was to add some cleats for dinghy tie-ups as well.
Anybody else? Anything else?
Yep. This is Chris Rager from Bayland. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good evening. I just wanted to mention also that we've as part of our MDE permitting process, we've received a lot of the comments that were made today, including a lot of pictures of the current use of the Tucker Street boat ramp and the congestion that's spoken of. And one thing that, maybe Anna didn't articulate very well is that there are already a lot of folks using this boat ramp with boats that are 20 plus feet, waiting in line to utilize a ramp that's not really appropriately sized for them. And I think one of the goals of the project here was to ensure that there is safe access for those folks who are currently using the ramp. And there's no intention that all of a sudden new boats are going to show up, but we would like the boats that are showing up to have safe and easy access, which will help them, help the neighborhood with congestion and the various issues that they're having. Because if you have a proper boat ramp that's got a proper width and a proper boarding pier, you're able to launch more effectively, quickly, and leave with your trailer.
Thank you for that.
I'm a little still concerned, if I may. I see your point, ADA compliant, et cetera, but how do we address the neighbors' concerns? I don't want to ignore their concerns.
Harold, when we deliberate, I think I have some insights on how to do that.
Okay.
We have a full list we can go through and hash out. It might be a little painful, a little bit lengthy, but it'll be thorough. I'm advising it's probably a good way for us to do this.
Mr. Acting Chair, just to make you aware of a couple of things. The public testimony you had asked for, we had Marie Pohida had signed up. You asked for further input and she did not respond. Now she's raising her hand. I don't know how you want to handle that.
Oh, no, please, we haven't closed out deliberations for public testimony, so we'll go to her right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Maria? Ms. Pohida?
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I didn't know when to speak and I was trying to be, proper. All right.
Did you, were you sworn in properly? When we swore you in, were you on there?
I beg your pardon?
We swore everybody in. Were you part of that group?
I was part of the group. Yes,
okay, good.
I was part of the group, but nobody could hear my voice.
Okay, you were muted probably. Okay, go ahead.
Sworn in. Okay, my name is Marie Pohida. I live 75 yards from the boat ramp. I am a frequent user of the boat ramp. And with this redesign, there is a significant loss of shoreline. And so because of that, there are two consequential impacts. First of all, with this significant loss of shoreline, it means that seniors, adults, and children, there's a less shoreline to enter the water, where it's shallow and easy to enter. There's less shoreline to kayak or SUP. I am 60 years old and I physically cannot carry my SUP to the proposed ADA kayak ramp. I mean, this is a loss of accessibility for me. You know, second, with this significant loss of shoreline, where will all the dinghies tie up? We've got dinghies from the city running mooring balls. We've got transient boaters in Weems Creek. These dinghies will compete with the kayaks and the SUPs for the little bit of shoreline that's left to tie up and launch. So the problem that I have is that this design favors power boaters over dinghy and paddlers. And, you know, I'm requesting a smaller boat ramp with a reduced footprint on the natural shoreline. But thank you.
Sure. I'm looking at the drawings and it looks like there's about the difference. I'm going to say is about 12 feet or something like that. 13 feet of shoreline difference. Is that what you come up with? Can you quantify?
I haven't done the calculations in a long time, but I know it's significant.
So what is significant?
The loss of shoreline, the width.
I understand, but how much of that width is? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about 5 feet or are we talking about 20 feet?
Oh, I don't have those numbers for you.
Okay,
Well,
so
I think Anna can speak to that, Mr. Chairman.
Please do.
Sorry,
Yes,
Bert, did you volunteer me to speak to that?
I sure
Yes.
did. Yeah, and then maybe you want to bring the drawing back up so everybody.
Yes, absolutely, I can.
Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully you can all see it. So the configuration of the current boat ramp is here, and as you can see from here, hopefully you can see my mouse, but from here to the fence line is approximately 35 feet. But because this boat ramp was originally constructed within the City of Annapolis offsets, we have to pull it out of the 5-foot offset. So that gives us 5 feet here and reduces this to about 15 to 20 feet wide. So where you've previously had 35 feet, you are going down to about 25 feet total. And it's split over both sides.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering that. Any other questions? Public testimony?
Yes, sure. This is Burr Vogel. I'd like to speak to a couple of things that I've heard here.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so it's already been mentioned, but it's worth mentioning again that the boat ramp does add spots for dinghies to tie up, so that will free up space, you know, from the loss of beach from 35 to 20 will be partially compensated by the spots to tie up dinghies at that L. The second point along those lines is that the proposed floating kayak launch could be removed if we find that is not well used, and we'd rather have additional dinghy space there. We will simply remove that floating kayak launch and create spots for what 2-3 dinghies could probably go out there on the inside of the L.
Okay.
So that's kind of main topic number one. Main topic number two is that it is my observation, as well as that of the harbor master, that a lot of the congestion and the larger boats, the inappropriate use of this boat ramp, is from non-permitted boaters. People who are just coming there because maybe they couldn't get Sandy Point was full. They just pulled something up on Google Maps and they show up there without permitted use. Part of this project, in fact, in advance of this project, we are going to be increasing signage as well as adding camera-based license plate readers to strengthen the enforcement there. And we're going to see a significant decrease when we're able to put those cameras in and be able to send people significant fines if they're launching there without the permit from the harbor master. And of course, when you go to apply for a permit from the harbor master, They're going to ask you what the size of your boat is. If it's not the correct size for this ramp, they're not going to issue you a permit. So that kind of concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? No more testimony. Port Wardens, anything from you guys? Harold, you good?
Anna?
Jonathan, you good? Jared?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
What if dinghies start tying up on the area where you expect people to tie their boats off after they launch? Is that going to affect the efficiency of the ramp?
Ms. Shapiro?
Yeah. So I was going to say that, yes, the cleats are going to be on the outside of that L pier, and they will have the dual purpose of either being dinghy tie-ups or if you're waiting to launch, or after you've launched and you're going to park your trailer away, that they will have that dual use. And you are correct that, if you have dinghies tied up, then you may potentially lose that efficiency that you're actually gaining by constructing this project. But that is a possibility, yes.
And on the fence line side, this black line on the drawing, is that the property line?
Yes, that's the property line, correct.
Okay.
Jared, is that all for you, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. If there's anybody else, now's the time. Otherwise, we will declare the public hearing on Port Wardens 2024-00008 closed. Once again, anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
your public testimony person would like to testify again?
Oh, sure. Which one was that?
Susan Shapiro?
Oh, sorry, Ms. Shapiro. Please go ahead.
I think at a certain point we had been told that if this project was going to go into place, the kayak ramp had to be in place. That was a legal obligation. And then at other times we were told it was not. And I'm hearing today that maybe we don't have to have it, but maybe we do. Is the city willing to remove that from the proposal so that there is in fact perhaps more spots for dinghies to tie up?
It's our intention to install it there when we build the project. If we find that that's not the best use of that space, we'll remove it.
Ms. Shapiro, does that answer your question?
That answers my question.
Very good. Without further ado, we will declare the public hearing on Port Wardens 2024-008 closed. At this time for the public comment. And now the Port Wardens now deliberate on this application. Port Wardens, any questions? Comments? I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
So first of all, I want to go through a couple of things, and it's going to be a little bit methodic because it's the city. We want to make sure we do this right and take care of our homeowners over there. So, there's no, I'm going to go through this list, whether or not the things that we need to really pay attention to are going to be the placement, erection of construction and structures or other barriers to the city that render navigation too close or too confined. Does anybody see any problems with that? Navigation?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. About the placement, erection, or construction of structures other than or other barriers in city waters is undertaken in a matter and material as it is sufficient, substantial, and lasting. I mean, the work that's going to be done, is that substantial enough and it will last? And I think it will. It's if they're going to concrete from gravel, that's a pretty big improvement. Anybody?
Yeah, seems substantial. Concrete. Yep.
Yeah.
Barrier rocks. Yep.
Yeah, and it's not going to increase materially water pollution or erosion or materially impair marine life or wildlife conservation, have a material impact on increasing boat congestion. Anybody?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, okay. Whether the proposal structure or barrier impedes navigable access to the public and the harbor lines from any point of public property or easement that are established by the benefit of the public. That includes shoreline, notwithstanding developable waterway areas. This is section 1516.020. That's in compliance with that. I don't see any issues there. Does anybody?
No.
Okay. The effect of the proposed structures alone in concert with the present and other proposed areas uses on marine life, wildlife conservation, or water pollution, erosion, navigational hazards. I don't see anything there. Anybody? How about the effect on congestion of the waterways? What's the effect congestion in the waterway? Anybody see how it would?
I mean, it
Potentially.
you could have boats waiting to use the ramp in there, but I don't know that that's going to really congest the waterway there.
Right.
So no different than it is today.
Right. Right. How about the effect of proposed use in okay, we got that. The effect of proposed use on other riparian property owners and access by the public or recreational purposes. We're hearing testimony that it could possibly, because of the taking the beach away, making the beach smaller. Now, I could probably be an advocate either way on that, but it is a concern of them, and I'm a spry 54, not advanced age quite yet, but I can see where that would be an effect on people when they're taking their kayaks down.
Riparian rights are the waterfront homeowners who would have riparian rights. You know, if the city owns this property, right? So
That's
the only
correct.
riparian rights that they're manipulating are their own, right? So we wouldn't have riparian rights issues because we're not impeding past the lateral lines.
Right, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Has the question, I have to go back. Has the city and those homeowners talked about this? I hate to just ram it down their throats is what it looks like. Why has the city talked to the homeowners and come to some equitable solution versus all or nothing here?
Well, it sounds like they have, but
Many times, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Harold, there are other,
and if you want, Ms. Johnson can speak to some of the revisions in the history that she's made as a result of that community engagement.
Yes, please.
Sure. So we have communicated with the public extensively about this project. So I will share again if you would just bear with me.
I think the question was more on the city side, have your discussions with the city.
I was just going to speak to revisions that were made based on discussions between property owners and city.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to remind everyone really quickly that the public hearing has been closed. So no new evidence, no new testimony or anything like that. You guys are in deliberations at this point. So sorry.
No, you're right. I apologize for getting off base there. So no public testimony where this is among the Port Wardens only. I apologize.
So going back, that was my concern is, you know, how is it harming, and is this harming the 4, 5, 6 residents in that cul-de-sac? I mean, I understand they have a compelling interest for ADA compliance and all that, but also they have the burden of not harming the local citizens, and I just don't see where they came to an agreement.
You know, and also
I don't know.
the traffic. I think the traffic is a huge thing. It could be a huge thing when somebody parks their boat, leaves their boat, and they park there. Where do they park?
There is no parking. There isn't. The whole street is no parking on the far
Park
side.
randomly where they can walk. Park in the elementary school.
These are also issues that aren't under the jurisdiction of the Port Wardens. You know, we're not in charge of parking. You know, that's not us.
Right. Let's see. Project needs. Yeah, the president project needs for any proposed commercial industrial use. There won't be any industrial use or commercial use. Harbor lines, we are okay. Obviously, it's in the same area as it was before, so it is a developable waterway area. Harbor line and lateral line setbacks are compliant, correct, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's so I guess now, unless anybody has any other comments, we'll go on to entertaining a vote. Anybody have a motion to approve Port Wardens? Let me go back to the list here. All right, so I entertain a motion to approve or deny the application Port 2024-0008.
Motion to approve.
I want a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Motion.
The
Is there a
chair
second motion?
or the acting chair can always second a motion, just for
Okay.
future reference. It's just the chair can't do the initial move.
Right, I got you. So I'll second the motion. Anyone? So those in favor? Say aye. Raise your hand. We've got one aye, so we have a, what's the count? Anybody against? Those who say against, please raise your hand and say against.
Against.
Okay, so I think this motion fails, doesn't it?
Yes, it's 2 and 2, so the motion fails.
So the motion for the approve or deny the application of Port Wardens 2024-0008 has failed. Moving right along. Let's see here. Maybe back here. New business and let's see here. So let's talk about miscellaneous. We have the review the harbor master mooring permits or report. Does anybody have that?
Mhm.
Okay, any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward. Not mine. I think there's a total of let me find it. There's a total of 76 moorings or something. I'm gonna find it here.
I sent it out earlier to you guys. It's not called, it's the 2024 City of Annapolis Mooring Ball.
Okay. Yeah, I got there's a total of now it's got everybody's name on it for the annual moorings and the locations of the moorings. I think that's all we've ever gotten in the past. And so are all the moorings available to do a yearly rental if they want? Or is there some sort of
Anything listed on this are annual mooring balls that the city actually leases out to individuals. They pay a fee. I mean, this is merely the Latin lawn and the location. If the harbor master makes a change, it gets resubmitted next year, but it's really, there's nothing to approve. We're not approving the person. We're not approving, the location. You know, it's sort of just, it's within our purview to approve.
Yeah, well, I think if the harbor master is going to take the time to submit it to us, that we should probably at least talk about it and make sure we understand it.
Sure.
How are the fees determined? Who determines the what it costs per year or daily or monthly or whatever?
It's the harbor master mixed with the city, I believe. Carrie might know better than me or Brian. But it's basically stayed the same and gone up a little bit. It's creeped up $50 here or there. It's actually pretty in line with other seasonal rental scenarios. There's a whole bunch of rules that go with it as well. Like you actually have to use yours. You have to use it X number of days within the actual height of the season, June 1 through September 30. You have to have 70 some odd days, and they count. They count. The harbor master actually counts, because there's a wait list for almost every single creek that they assist in managing. So
do we know what the deal is with these 4 slips on Back Creek that says future?
We'd have to ask the harbor master. I guess she, is trying to give us a heads up of what they hope to be able to do.
Add on later, right? I would imagine it's just future that they're going to try to add on later.
There is a capital expense to actually adding mooring balls, the helicoil, the diver, the chain, and the ball. And so I don't know, we can certainly ask Beth. I can ask her I'll include all you guys on an email, and we can just have a conversation with her via email. We can certainly do it also if she wants to come here, but I mean, every year we've done this, it's pretty much just we look at it and just get a sense of where things are at and what the city's trying to do to provide both public moorings and annual moorings.
Looks like there were 76 temporary and 65 yearly.
I think there might be a little bit more than that, but there's 65 annual split between the Three Creeks and the Severn. The annual, I thought there was between, because there's the upper 40, which is the right off the main, Eagle Alley downtown, and then there's the St. Mary's Field is the sort of buzzword that I'm aware of. That's what they call it. And those have 4 times 5, so about 20 mooring balls. The problem with St. Mary's Field is the size vessel it was created for, sort of 35 or less, ends up, a lot of boats, the average has started to creep around 40, 42. Plus you got to go under the bridge. But it's a nice field. So 20 plus 40. So yeah,
they're numbered. They're numbered here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, that would, is there anything for, is there any other thing else for the good of the order? Miscellaneous? If not, there being no other items on the agenda, I'm sorry, go ahead. There being no other items on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I can make that. I'm making it. The motion to adjourn since I yielded.
Can we have a second to,
Second.
we have a second. Everybody say aye. Aye.
Bye.